Okay, every time I start one of these videos, I keep thinking to myself, okay, I'm gonna keep it short. And then I bloviate and talk forever. Hi, welcome back to the Colorblind Architect Podcast. I'm David, and you know what? Yeah, I do tend to drag these conversations on a little bit too long. So I'm going to try to keep this one short because I have noticed that when the videos are about 5 minutes long, they do way better on the analytics than the ones that are 15 to 30 minutes long. So there, yeah, I said it. So I was reading an opinion piece published in the Deseret News here locally that was talking about the Cold Civil War. If you've heard about the Cold Civil War, then that means you've been paying attention probably to conservative media, because I'm not so sure anybody on the left is even cognizant that they're not insane. But I say that, and I know that's... I'm not supposed to be combative. People keep telling me that I'm too combative, but you know what? Honestly, I'm fighting for our civilization. Okay? And this is an intellectual battle, and I refuse to let the communists win. And I say the communists, and I know that's like such a byword sometimes because people don't even understand what it means anymore. And so this opinion piece in the Deseret News, it was talking about the Cold Civil War and this divide between those that believe that the U.S. founding, the Constitution of the United States, is something of value, something that has brought about good, and is a good foundation to continue going on, and against the people who believe that we are systematically racist from our founding, that our entire system is flawed because it is built on a system of injustice. And the article, the opinion piece didn't really necessarily come to any kind of conclusion, other than to say that, oh, we need to come together. And my thought when reading it was, how do you come together when you have diametrically opposed opinions that are mutually exclusive? For example, I believe that the Constitution of the United States was inspired of God, and while not every element of that document was inspired, I believe that the founders, when they wrote it, were receiving inspiration from God, and that the document is something that has established a framework that allows us to not only have justice, but to continually improve our system of justice. For example, at the beginning, we had slavery, and that was a horrible evil. No thanks to the Democrats who owned all the slaves. But the Republicans eventually were able to free the slaves, much to the Democrats' chagrin, and that's why they formed the KKK. But I'm not talking about that this time. What I'm talking about is the fact that the Constitution had the framework, the seeds of that justice. Frederick Douglass even referred to the effort to abolish slavery as us finally living up to our principles. Now, could we have possibly had the abolition of slavery under a different system? Well, you could argue, well, the English ended slavery a couple decades before, maybe a few decades before the U.S., thanks to William Wilberforce. Which, by the way, if you haven't seen Amazing Grace, the movie made about William Wilberforce, you gotta go see it. It is an excellent movie. But the point about the founding being the establishment of that, you gotta remember that England has a very similar cultural history and governmental foundation. Remember, we still have those relics of the Magna Carta in the American founding documents. And we carry forth those principles. The idea of habeas corpus and, a jury by your peers and stuff like that. These principles are still found within our system. So you can't say that. So where else was slavery abolished before? No, it didn't happen. See, that's the thing. The left keeps trying to say that we are systematically racist and systematically flawed from the founding. Now, the problem with saying that is, if you're going to say that, you are essentially saying that we have to abolish the system of governments, the system of common law that we have been guiding ourselves under for a millennia as the English-speaking world. Okay? You're trying to tell us that we are so flawed, so evil, that we have to change everything. And to what? See, I consider that an irreconcilable difference. Look, I get it. We want civility back. I want civility back. I would love to not be having to constantly be angry at what the left is doing. But the problem is the left is not being remotely willing to consider our side of the argument. The left is irreconcilably saying, your system sucks. We need to change the system. And again, I say, to what? Okay, well, you want to know what to what? Okay, let's talk about what the left is talking about. They're talking about Marxism. And if anybody who isn't stupid actually studies Marxism, they will realize that Marxism is not a system of justice. It is a neo-feudalistic system of lords and serfs. You have the people up in the government who become the lords, and the people down at the bottom who are all the serfs, the slaves to the government. So, you want to know why I'm just constantly beating a dead horse of Karl Marx is evil, and Marxism is evil, communism is evil? I keep saying it because I keep feeling like there's just not enough people actually listening, that there's not enough people actually understanding why this is so important. I'm not talking about trying to preserve any kind of system of power for myself. I'm at the bottom. I'm a plebe. Okay? I'm a common man. I have no political power. I have no connection to high political power. And so it's not like I'm trying to preserve something that's benefiting me. I'm actually someone who's been, I could even say that I've been a little bit oppressed myself. But at the same time, I don't sit there and complain about it. I just keep working hard and producing, because that's what gets me out of the problems of my life. That's how I pay for things. That's how I solve problems. Like, look, for example, you might have a little debt. Yeah, you need to get rid of that debt, right? Well, how are you going to get out of the debt if you're not working to pay off those debts? Too many people just take the easy path. And here comes the problem. The problem that I see that is way too common in this country is too many Americans have become lazy. I say that with so much frustration because I've been working my butt off for years. I've been abiding by the rules. I've been paying taxes. And I'm paying down my debts. And you know what? Then you have these punks out there that are sitting there, they're wearing their black bloc and marching for Antifa, saying that we're a systematically oppressive country. And have they ever even been to a communist country? Have they ever even considered what it's like for people who have suffered under those kinds of regimes? And these same little spoiled brat kids, they're mostly rich kids, right? They're rich kids who hate their parents because their parents were successful, and then they see themselves as not being successful as their parents, and so of course they're going to throw a little temper tantrum because, oh, Johnny's not getting his way, so he's gonna start dressing in drag and wearing black bloc and complaining at Antifa rallies. I'm just blown away by that logic. Like, what? Where do you come to that kind of conclusion? How? How do you think that's acceptable? And yet they do it. They burn stuff down. They graffiti all over stuff. They act like total hoodlums in their spoiled bratedness because they are so freaking wealthy. They don't even realize how privileged they are. And instead of actually doing something, instead of actually going to work and producing, coming up with value so that people will have a reason to pay them money, so that they'll have a reason to be successful instead of just being handed success, they whine. They whine. And one of the things that I've noticed is that so often these bratty American kids, and I say kids derisively because these are 20-somethings, like people, young adults who aren't yet adults, and they don't know what the crap they're talking about, and yet they're constantly saying stuff like, oh, well, it's because of capitalism. I've noticed that a lot of these kids, so to speak, that are the biggest whiners about these kinds of things also tend to be the biggest losers. They tend to be ugly. They tend to be unskilled. They tend to be lazy. And they complain about everything being against them because they've never actually had to work hard for anything in their life. They grew up in a rich household. They had everything they could possibly want. Then they get to become an adult and they realize they have to work, and they've never had to work before. So I almost wonder if the problem to the reason why we're facing a threat of a communist takeover has more to do with permissive parenting, with the fact that parents are too freaking easy on their kids. What I'm saying is, look, if you've got kids, make them do some chores. Make them wash the dishes. Have them wash their own clothes. Have them mow the lawn once every in a while. Hey, here's a crazy idea. Make them clean up their own room and make their own bed. And no, don't pay them an allowance for it. Just make them do it because it's part of their freaking job as a human, is taking care of yourself. Then add extra jobs that they can do, and those you can pay. Teach them a work ethic. Teach them how to actually function in society instead of just giving. Oh, here's your fancy new iPhone so that you can become an enemy of what I believe in by spending all your time on TikTok. I mean, what are we doing? We're the parents, and we're giving our kids the tools of their own self-destruction. And I'm not saying don't give them a phone. What I'm saying is, don't let that be their only thing. Make sure that they're also going to church. Make sure they're also doing chores. Make sure you take them out into the woods every once in a while, go camping without devices, and make sure they actually learn how to exist in nature. Because we've got way too many whiny brats. And I think that's actually the real problem. It's not that they're actually true believers in communism. They just don't know what the crap they're talking about, and they're whiny brats. Maybe. Either way, I've gone long again. Yes, I keep doing that. So, with that, it felt good to get that off my chest, and hopefully felt good for you to hear me say it. If it did, like or subscribe down below, give me a rumble, and see you next time. Peace out.